Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition to Greet the Week. I'm Jan Moray, and I'm here with my co-host, Mona Duncan, and a couple of our regular guests, our visitors we have on with us today. And today's topic is Recovery Is. A plethora of current issues have prompted the lament of wanting things to return to normal. I'm there with you. So what is normal? What if things don't change? How can expanding one's perception serve to bring personal peace? And is that peace contagious? So help me here, Mona. What is normal?
Well, that is up to all of our figuring out.
Yes.
And the thing of it is that sometimes I made some notes here. I got up this morning and I couldn't remember what. Mondays, I like to run errands first thing on Mondays, if that kind of works out that way. And I thought, well, what are we talking about today on Greet the Week? So I went in and I looked at it, and all I read, I didn't look at the fact that we were looking at what is normal or recovery is, because I have a whole long list, and I don't even have it here in front of me, as what recovery is, that I like to look at. I started it back when I personally was in recovery, and not that I've fully recovered, okay? But when I was in recovery, and I began to write it down, some of the things that I saw, such as, I say it rather frankly, recovery is seeing it sooner and stopping it quicker.
Okay.
And getting help. You
Yes.
know, and I just began writing down all these things, that because I realized that although this is what I wanted, this is what I saw as recovery, but then I was here and there was such a gap between it, that if we don't look at where we've come from, okay, like here's where we start, okay, and here's where we want to be. Here's where we want it to be. And the thing of it is we progress. This is where we are. It's backwards in where I'm looking in the
Oh yeah. So
this is where we are, and this is where we want to be. And so we start moving, but we're still looking at this goal, and it still seems so far away, and we can't really but we have to let ourselves know back here that I'm not where I was.
Right.
That I am
reminding ourselves of where we were.
Right. And so as I would think of things, I would write them down, because that's a benchmark that lets me know I haven't arrived. Matter of fact, I've come to the conclusion that I'll never arrive, but that's okay. Yeah. Because we can get to the point as to where our thinking and our acting is not so erratic. It can be more easy to live with personally, as well as probably easier for others to live with us also.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at the fact that life is, or maybe recovery is, a sense of an infinite possibility. That infinite possibility balanced by the realization that everything is a collaborative risk, or a calculated risk.
Yeah, everything we do in life is a risk. Some risks are minuscule that you don't even think about it, but everything we do is a risk.
It is. And it depends on whether we look at it from way back here as opposed to right up here, or whether we begin to look at the benchmarks that we are accomplishing, so that we can see that we are making progress.
Yeah, that is so important to be aware of the progress that we have made, instead of looking to say, I'm not there yet. I mean, that just brings you down and demotivates you. But if you can look back and say, but look how far I've come.
Yeah. And so it's always the both and.
Right.
I'm not there yet, but that we are slowly, and slower growth helps it to be more sustainable.
Okay. So none of this, I need to get it done right away, or this, I need this to happen tomorrow.
Right. I looked at one time where I had the pictures of the knots, and how over here we are, kind of jerk into it, but we need to grow a little bit and settle into it, and it become kind of our new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's not what we really wanted, but then we grow a little bit more. We have to have that sustained growth so that we can keep on keeping on. And so it goes back to also what is recovery is it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And is, the little verb is a present perfect tense verb, meaning that it's just like now. That also is a present perfect tense.
Yeah.
It is the fact that we started this chit chat at 1 o'clock. It's now 1:06. We're still in the midst of it, but we are moved from what it was at the original now at 1 o'clock, or the original is at 1 o'clock. And it's looking at the fact that all of life is that way. And so it is what it is right now, but at the same time, it's not all, there's so much attached to what is that is not all happening at one time.
Yeah.
That, and I think back, I thought, well, I'll use a couple, 3 little illustrations here. And one of my illustrations that I was going to use was morning glories. And I have some morning glories out back, and I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And I went out there, and I was working in the yard this weekend, and they're, beginning to fade away because we haven't had rain lately, and I didn't water them. But anyway, they're fading away, and there are clusters. I mean, there are hundreds of clusters of 4 and 5 in a little cluster, and in each little dab that comes with it, there's 4 inside each one. So, here's a cluster of 4 or 5, and there's hundreds of clusters. And I'm thinking, oh, great. And matter of fact, I even broke some of them off and spread them around on other parts of the ground so that it, so that it would grow. Those morning glories would be all up and down beside the fence, not just on that one area.
Yeah.
But as I'm thinking about that, we're going to be looking at today's what is normal, that although I'm wanting more sunflowers, there may be some people that consider them nandinas.
Yes, morning glories can get out of hand. I've had them before too.
And you could be out there spraying vinegar on them to kill them.
Right.
So it's looking at what our goal are, what we're wanting out of life. Maybe what we're wanting out of others, although we need to be real careful about that because they are who they are. But how can we work with the others so that we are who we are in a better mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, learning to live together, learning that we're all different, and that's okay. that adds to diversity in life, and teaching you something else, because they may have something that you missed, you didn't think about.
Exactly. So I'm going to eventually get to my dream, and that dream. Well, I'll just go there now because
we'll go ahead.
Yeah, we'll just go there now. So I had this dream last night, and I woke up this morning and remembered the dream. And I'm thinking, well, that was really strange, as most dreams are, but that one seemed a little bit stranger than usual. And it's like I can't put it to anything because I like to look at what's it trying to tell me. But then, as I sat down to write down a couple of notes that maybe I'd kind of come up with while we were talking this morning, I thought, oh, that dream that I had last night was an assembly line. And of course, Carl Jung says that everything in the dream is actually us. But it was an assembly line, and there was the manager was talking to one of the assembly line workers, and it was trying to talk with them in a lead management way because the assembly line worker was trying to do everything his own way, as opposed to what had been agreed upon. They were hired. Right.
Their procedure.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, wait a minute. I saw this, maybe it was hearkening back to a video that I saw on TV. not TV, but on the computer. And it was a video of robots putting together robots.
Mm.
And all the video said at the bottom was, observe this carefully. And as I began to look at that silly thing, it was so entertaining that from up here at the very top and up through all of these things, you know, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, that there was little robots everywhere that was putting robotic pieces together. To eventually, it was up here just parts all the way down. And when it gets down here, the little robot hops off and then gets back in place to help build more robots.
To make more robots. Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? That just helped me to see all of that together. And I'm thinking about this, you know, that was in my dream. And in the dream, although the lead manager was as kindly as he could be trying to help the rebel employee to remember what he had agreed to when he was hired. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in the meantime, they're talking, and all of a sudden the rebel person said, wait a minute. He said, shh, be quiet. He said, I hear something. And what he was hearing, and he said, and look, he says, this assembly line has slowed down. He said, it's slowed down because there's something back here that is, the system is out of order. And it's further back. You don't notice it until it's here, or you don't hear it. And that's where the manager, he said, I don't hear anything. But he began to listen to what that guy was saying, even though he was ready to fire him, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
He was actually listening to what he was saying.
So
And
he was listening to what the manager was listening to what he was saying, or the assembly line worker was listening to what the line was telling him?
The lead, well, both. The assembly line worker was listening to something in the line that he had not heard before.
Yeah.
And the lead manager was listening to what this guy was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know, he was trying, and I put him a lead manager because he was trying really hard to be kind and considerate rather than just, this is the way I see it and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And he was listening, and they began together to look at going further down the system to see where it was that was slowing it down initially, so that whenever the assembly line got right here to where this rebel employee was, instead of kind of counting and seeing how and clocking it to see how accurately it is going on, he would get over there and try to give it a little push or a little this, or he was trying to fix it.
Okay.
And in the process of trying to fix it, he was damaging up the system further down, but the damage was in the system back before.
Okay. So he was not following the procedure because the assembly line wasn't working the way it was supposed to be working.
He was not following the procedure because it wasn't running as smoothly from back behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the other people on the assembly line was complaining about the rebel because he was getting in there kind of, you know, push it on, trying to make it work. Anyway, I began to look at that. How is that so how we are in life? That we just get our robotic mind, even though we have the ability to change our mind and to see things differently and to really listen and to really hear and to really see.
So we're trying to get everything to fit our narrative, to fit what we think it needs to be. And so we give it a little push or a little tweak or something.
Exactly.
So it goes where we want it to go.
And going back to all of us being together with the pandemic and, you know, being homeschooled and home business and everything, but there may be 2 or 3 people in the whole household that's doing the home business. I know my 2 grandchildren are coming. There's 5 grandchildren and all in the same family. And they're coming, 2 of them are coming home over the holidays. And I was talking with my daughter last night and she said, we got to do some rearranging here because there will be 7 people on Zoom accounts.
Oh, wow. Oh, and they each see you doing something different on their Zoom account. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
In one
Exactly.
house. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. That's going
And
to be
so
a
there,
challenge.
some will be outside, some will be and it's sandwiching that out. And the thing of it is that because we are all together in so many different things, especially now with the pandemic and with it growing in Texas and some other states more than anyway, is the fact that be congenial, care about each other, be kind, really listen to what is said as opposed to what we think is being said. And whenever we get to that point, that be aware of, it's being aware of, whenever we are at that point where it is do it my way, kind of back off a little bit because maybe someone else hears and sees something that you're not hearing or seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then give a little break there so that you can recompose yourself. Because things come up and we just, I think back to my sister. And helping to take care of her, taking her to doctor's
Yeah.
appointments and all that kind of stuff, and it was a lot, but it wasn't a lot because I was doing it in love.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we would go out and she would say, well, let's stop and get a treat. And the treat was not only a treat for she and I to sit and share a treat together, but the treat would be also to take home for their evening meal and to take home for Garland and my evening meal.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do that because I realized that there's expenses there. Anyway, I was careful. I caring about her. And not wanting to use all of her funds that, getting older and things are higher and all that kind of stuff. But yet she would get frustrated with me and I would get frustrated with her because she wouldn't take my no.
Because she had her
And,
mind made up. She wanted to get dinner and treats for later.
right. And there were many times that I allowed it, but every once in a while, I'm not allowing it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's when we get to those just allowing it, not to get there anymore. And it's realizing, and I know my sister was one of my biggest fan that ever was, and she would go and in teaching of my own personal growing and recovery and all that kind of stuff. One of the benchmarks is to look at the fact that I'm not there yet. There's still a long way to go, and that bottom line is I do have a hard heart and have been really quite adequate at chewing someone up one side and down the other and not even caring.
I can't imagine that in you, Mona.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you can't imagine that because it's becoming less and less and less.
Yeah.
I mean, those thoughts are still there at times, and I have to really do some deep thinking about it because I don't want them to be there.
Yeah.
And it's looking at, that's part of recovery. Recovery is when, but I'm not there yet. The recovery is, one of my recoveries is whenever I don't even observe the snark.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It may be in your voice, you may be saying it with a snark, but I don't want to hear it with that. Or I want to hear it to realize that you are frustrated, not that it's attacking me.
Right.
I don't want to hear it as an attack.
Yeah.
And so in the teaching and so forth, and in sharing with people, and I would make the comment that I am aware of the fact that, that I have this hard heart, but my goal is to have a tender heart and a thick skin. I want the skin to be thick so that, it can be like maybe if somebody shot an arrow or a bullet or something, it would repel off. Now that doesn't mean it wouldn't break a rib.
Right.
It may hurt and sting very much, but it may not be life-threatening. And so that's the way I want to live. I want this exoskeleton. And we can do that. We can do that. We have that capability.
But going back to your hard heart, and I'm thinking about, because you know, we're talking about going out with your sister, and a lot of times you just did what she wanted to do, but other times you stood back and you said, no, we're not going to do this today. So would standing up for yourself and setting boundaries, would that be considered? I mean, if I had a hard heart, I'd be more likely to do that kind of thing.
Yes, 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 yes. We're right on the same thing. And that was another thing in part of my recovery was to begin to look at how can we all have our needs met
Yeah.
without, and so yes, there were times, and here my sister, as kind and caring, and she would literally give you the shirt off of her back. She was that type of person. I mean,
Mhm.
literally would. But at the same time, she was adamant about you taking whatever she gave you. Now, and there were times that I would take it, and there were times that I dropped it at the Salvation Army before I even went home.
Oh.
Because if someone is giving you something and they are really giving it to you and you receive it, then you know what? And that they are pleased because you have received it. The thing of it is, if we're giving a gift with strings attached, then it's not really a gift. And back many years ago, and I'm talking many, back whenever I first started, that my sister would ask me, I would literally start doing this, as in I'm cutting the strings that you have attached to it.
Ah.
Because I know that somewhere down the way it's going to be, yeah, but.
But I did all
And
this stuff for you.
right. And so back to that very same day that, she wanted to buy her. I mean, I said, no, we're not doing it. We'll get a little treat just for the two of us. You can pay for it, that you're not buying our evening meals. And anyway, the process is she just told us, she says, you do not have a tender heart.
Oh.
And, it kind of stung, but at the same time, I had that armor on and I was not offended by it.
Mm.
And I'm sorry that you see that it is still the hard heart there, because, there are times that still today I don't care. But then I look at cats. We were talking about it just before we came on here. And we have 2 inside cats, and I don't know how many outside cats we have. I don't claim them. I claim 2 of them because but we feed the strays.
Yeah.
Yeah. We keep the banquet table out there and they can come up anytime and find that, the majority of them go on, but 2 of them I have had an attachment to enough that I've gotten to where I go out and touch them.
Okay. And you take them
But
to the vet too, or just,
well, no, I
no.
don't.
Okay.
Well, I do initially, if I ever catch them, which I do sometimes, put out, I have a heart, and I'll take them in and have them neutered and have them initially.
Oh,
But then I
okay.
don't keep after that. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's cats multiply quickly.
They do. Yes, they do.
But there's this one old cat that comes around here, and I call him Scruffy. And I know you shouldn't name a cat because anything you name, you have a
You
tendency
get
to like.
attached to.
But anyway, old Scruffy comes, and he only comes around maybe once or twice a week. So I don't know if he has a circuit he makes, and this happens to be one of
his stops.
Yeah. But anyway, the other day I saw him, and he's one that won't let me touch him, although he will stand and let me speak to him without running off. Anyway, my heart just goes out to that. I bet he gets beat up every day. I mean, he really looks scruffy.
Oh.
And I thought to myself, why am I so drawn to this cat? I mean, he is, and I even have to kind of, the 2 that I have, anyway, try to keep them apart so he won't beat up on them.
Yeah.
And I get to thinking, you know what? All of us had this hard heart until we deliberately, on purpose, help it to be tenderized.
Mm.
And whether it's the bully cat or whether it's the bully person.
Yeah.
And whether it's the mate that you married or whether it's the kid that you birthed or whether it's the grandchildren that come, you know what? They all have infinite worth and value, and we all matter.
Yeah.
And so whenever that the way you're seeing something and the way I'm seeing something. And even though you've cut strings before, those strings sometimes just, maybe they're part of that invisible stuff we can't see, they're still there. To maybe give a little space so that you can think and rethink and still be family.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been thinking a lot about just your comment about the person who's the bully, or who has that tough exterior. And I've gotten to know quite a few people like that, and discover that underneath that rough exterior, there can be a pretty soft heart and a pretty soft interior if you just give them the chance, and you just show them kindness, and that you're really interested in them, and let them know that what they said or did you may not like, but that you don't disapprove of them as a person, or you don't think ill of them. You just let them know that's I don't think that's I don't appreciate the way you responded. But a lot of people put that rough exterior on to protect themselves. They've learned over the years that works for them and keeps people away. But once you can get through that tough shell, there's some jewels inside there.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that, because it makes me think of whenever I was working with the prisoners, and one of the managers there was always predicting their future.
This one's going to amount to nothing, and this one will never find a job.
And they're going to be back, and you're going to be back at the system again, and blah blah blah, and all this kind of stuff. And I know one day I was talking with him about something, and he called me he said, yeah, but he said, well, I expect that from you because you're just bleeding heart liberal. And I told him, I said, well, you know what? I am. And as a matter of fact, my heart even bleeds for you.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
I really believe that for someone to be so cynical, it comes from a very deep wound.
How did he respond to that?
Oh, he just kind of blew me off.
Yeah.
Always blowing me off.
But that stuff does get to them. I mean, you're planting a seed when you say something like that. They may not respond in the way you expect at the beginning, but it's I'm sure it set with them. And yeah.
Well, it did, but it was quite some time later.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
It was, exactly. And that this person was of a different ethnic than me.
Okay.
And time passed. And I don't remember the exact amount of time. I know it was at least 2 years, and his dad died. And I contributed, to help send family, for the whole office, to send family to the food and flour and so forth, and all of that. And we all signed a card and everything. But I stopped by the funeral home on my way home. I, went by there, and I stopped by the funeral home, and he was there. And I mean, I didn't know it because I don't pay that close attention to anybody's vehicle.
Yeah.
To
Me neither.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I went in, I mean, he was shocked. And he came up, he says, what are you doing here? And he was sitting there with some of his friends, and his family and all that. And I felt like he was ushering me out, but I was okay with it. I thought, apparently there was something special there, and I wasn't familiar with their beliefs or traditions, or that kind of stuff. It just wasn't. And so, I mean, he thanked me for coming by, and they said, yeah, I'll go ahead and sign. So I did, and he walked me outside, but I felt like I sensed I was being ushered out.
Okay.
But I mean, he wasn't rude, not the least bit rude. It's just like, you're here, but you don't belong here. Maybe we were talking about you and you came in. You've seen those kind of but probably not. I mean,
no, probably not.
Yeah, I'm sure not. So anyway, I went on and left. And it was about, weeks, months later, that he apologized.
Yeah.
he said, I've got to thinking about it. He said, I was surprised you came by. He said, but I really appreciate it. I mean, it wasn't an apology. It was,
No,
it
no.
was, it was, you know, there was no words, I'm sorry or anything. And yeah, before I left there would be times that he'd just come in that he wanted to vent. He'd come to my office to vent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But we do, back to setting those boundaries, we do need to not allow someone else to use us. But in the process of not allowing someone else to use us or to broach our boundaries, as in I'm giving you this whether you want it or not.
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe have a little bit of kindness there. And I have a poem here that I want to, what's the song? It is Barbara Streisand sings it. I don't know if she wrote it or not. It said lyrics, so she may have written it, but it's called At the Same Time. And I just love it. So I just want to share this as we're finishing up here. Think of all the hearts beating in the world at the same time. Think of all the faces and the stories they could tell at the same time. Think of all the eyes looking out into this world, trying to make some sense of what we see. Think of all the ways we have of seeing. Think of all the ways we have of being. Think of all the children being born into this world at the same time. Feel your love surround them through the years they'll need to grow at the same time. Just think of all the hands that will be reaching for a dream. Think of all the dreams that could come true. Yes, if the hands we're reaching with could come together, joining me and you. When it comes to thinking of tomorrow, we must protect our fragile destiny. In this life, there's no time to borrow. The time has come to be a family. Think of all the love pouring from our hearts at the same time. Think of all the light our looks can shine and grow this world at the same time. It's time to overcome our fears and join to build a world that loves and understands. It helps to think of all the hearts beating in the world and hope for all the hearts healing in the world. There's a healing music in our hearts beating at the same time.
Well, that was nice. Very nice closing thought for today. So thank you, Mona. Thank you for the topic, for the discussion, and thanks to everybody here. And we'll see you again next week for another edition of Greet the Week.